Topic 3. We're going to talk about DC. Might as well talk about Marvel. Let's talk about a little game called Marvel Snap. So if you don't know what Marvel Snap is, this has been one of those games that's kind of been sweeping the nation as of last year. I'm not sure exactly when the game launched, but I decided to give it a try. It's on mobile platforms, but now has a Steam port, I guess you could say. And essentially what the game is, it is a card collecting strategy game. And the objective is, with your cards, you are trying to, within a 6-turn span, control 2 out of 3 points minimum to win your game. It's an online game. You play against real players across the world, whoever's playing it as well on either platform, and you're trying to outplay them. I've heard a lot of comparisons to Hearthstone, but to be honest, I know literally nothing about Hearthstone, so I can't draw an accurate comparison. So your cards essentially have two things. Every card has an energy value, and every card has a power value. Depending on their energy value, that determines if you can play them or not. So as the game progresses, from turn 1 to turn 6, you will get more energy. So for example, turn 1, you have 1 energy. Turn 2, 2 energy, and so on until turn 6. You have to strategize of when to play cards and what point or what location you play them at. So that's your energy level. Your power level is what determines who wins what location. So your card can have a power level of 1, 2. I think my highest right now is a 20. Jesus Christ. And that power all adds together and goes against your opponent's power. Whoever has the more power by the end of the game wins that territory. So 2 out of 3 you're trying to win. If for some reason there is a tie, so maybe each opponent has 1 location fully locked down, and then the third one is a tie, it just goes to pure math. So who had a better advantage or more power collectively than their opponent did, and that will be the person who wins it overall. So sometimes it even comes down to those last minute decisions of like, oh, I actually beat you by 8 while you only overpowered me by 5 here. And that can be the person who wins it all. So along with the energy and the power, each card has, well, most cards have their own abilities. Some will add power and buffs to other cards that you may have played. Some will cause negative effects on your opponents. Some you can re-strategize by moving to other spots later in the game, etc., etc. There's a lot of abilities. I'm not going to go through the full thing. And it's a really interesting game to kind of figure out and strategize how you want to play your cards. Similar to, I'm going to say older styles of card games, but, you got your Magic the Gathering, your Pokemon, your Yu-Gi-Oh! There's obviously all these different strategies for those games of things you want to do to try and beat your opponent. One other thing that makes the game so enticing and so exciting is every game is different. So you make your deck that obviously you think will obviously win, but your strategy may technically change from game to game. And the reason it does is because those 3 locations are revealed progressively throughout the game. So on turn 1, the most left location will be revealed, and this will have certain aspects or gameplay mechanics that will affect the players. So maybe you get extra energy if you have no cards at this location, or you can't play power cards level 1, 2, and 3 at the location. Turn 2, you'll get the second location. Turn 3, you will get the third location. So by adding these random elements of the locations, you kind of have to strategize and plan a little bit extra on top of it. And I think that's what kind of keeps, at least myself, playing, because it's different every time, and it's not just, okay, play this one, then play that one, then go that, and it's just like automatic, if that makes sense. It's very interesting kind of and fresh to go into each game and figure out what you need to do. The game's very, very quick. With the 6 turns, I would say a game maybe takes 3 to 5 minutes, if that, and you could just pump them out. Playing this game over break became very addicting, I will say. I don't feel like the game is pay to win. I know some people had a little bit of backlash over last season's Battle Pass. I mentioned one of my cards is Power 20. I haven't used that card specifically, nor have I run into cards that people play all the time that feel overpowered or like cheap. Like, I'll see a lot of cards often. Like, I'll say one of the more popular ones would be like these counter cards. So like the Guardians of the Galaxy, at least the ones that I've seen so far, so like a Rocket Raccoon, a Mantis, or a Star-Lord are kind of like counter cards. So it's, if I play Star-Lord at a location and my opponent also plays a card at that location, my Star-Lord card is buffed because they played a card there. I'll see a lot of those cards, but I haven't run into any strategies or any cards specifically, and maybe it's just in my ranking playthrough who I'm paired against. I haven't run into any strategies or any cards that feel overpowered or cheap in any aspect, and that's something I appreciate, because a lot of games, especially with whatever you want to call them, season passes, microtransactions, pay to win, nothing feels like a pay to win strategy where if you don't want to give them real world money on top of your initial download, you fall behind. It doesn't feel like that with this game. It feels like, nope, you just play it and use what you got and you can go from there. And it makes it worthwhile to play. It doesn't feel like you're getting left behind. Similar to a Fortnite, where if I buy something in the Battle Pass or in the store, everything being cosmetic, I'm not getting any kind of advantage over any players. So with the card collecting aspect, they give you, I don't know how many cards to start off, but it's enough to make a deck, and the decks are 12 cards in total. And you can rearrange and make however many decks as you want. I don't know if there's a cap. Typically I only play with the one that I like right now, but I have 3 different sets of decks that I have right now. But you can mix and match as much as you want. You can't have repeats of cards. So in the collecting aspect of it, there's different characters that you can collect. So you have your Avengers, you have your Guardians, you have villains, you have X-Men. There's a wide variety of characters that you do have. But on top of that, they also have variants. So they have a lot of different art from different comic artists. But they have different types of cards. So, for example, there's a Hawkeye card, but then there's a Pixel one. There's one that are based on like the chibi animated little short characters that they had during the Secret Wars Run 2. There's more stylized characters from different other comic book artists based on the Ultimate line or whatever it might be. So that's another aspect of the collector. So even if you have multiple of the same card, you can't stack up the same of that card. So it's not like you're going to run into players who are running 8 Mr. Fantastics. So that's nice too, where even if the card is powerful, you're not going to run into multiples of that card. Now, can you get multiple of the cards? Yes, if certain locations make copies of cards or random elements allow you to draw cards, whatever it might be. Those are the only way you're going to see duplicates of cards. So it's nice to at least know that it's not going to be stacked with all of one card that's really, really good. Papa Griffin chats asks, so what is the collecting dynamic? That is, how do you assemble a deck? So like I said, you'll start off with so many cards. I'm not sure. I want to say it's at least the 12 to get obviously your first initial deck. But the way you collect the cards is interesting. So it's not like Pokemon cards, for example. It's not like a pack that you open and then oh, you get 5 whatever cards. The way you get the cards, or rather unlock anything, is through a collection level. So, for example, every card has a tier. Now, the tier does not affect power level, does not affect energy level, does not affect how powerful the card is. It is simply a cosmetic, how the card appears, how it looks when you're playing it. Every card starts off as a, I guess, common. It's common, uncommon, rare, legendary, ultra, and then I believe it's infinity. And what this does is it changes the appearance of the cards. So uncommon is just like a flat playing card. Uncommon, it becomes borderless, and the art goes outside of the rectangular shape of the card. On rare, it becomes animated, I believe. Let me see if I can find one. I think so. Yeah, it's animated. And then the fourth one is like dynamic effects, and then ultra. Like, there's different effects the cards essentially get in their appearance. With you upgrading these cards, your collection level will go up. And as you start earlier, pretty much every level of rarity that you improve is a pip up this bar. So uncommon to common will be 1 pip. Common to rare will be 2 pips, so on and so forth. So if you're getting to the highest rarity of cards, you can get like 6 to 8 pips up. And these get you random cards. So it can get you a random card every so many, and then it also can get you these units to upgrade your cards. So how do you upgrade your cards? Well, this is kind of where the randomness kind of comes into play. So if you play cards, you are more likely going to get things to upgrade them. So for example, I use a Carnage card from the Spider-Man comics a lot. So he's upgraded to, I believe, the Ultra level. And then I have a Mr. Fantastic who's at like the Infinity level or whatever. The more you use those cards, you're more likely to get resources to upgrade those cards. There's 2 resources that go into upgrading those cards. There's credits, which you get from essentially just playing the game. Different missions, quote unquote, sorry for audio listeners, which are just like play X amount of games, play 10 power 2 cards, win a location with 1 card, win a location with a power of 20. Similar to any battle pass that has weekly challenges, things like that. Marvel Snap does the same thing. You have your battle pass challenges, which can help you get the battle pass if you decide to get the battle pass or just do the free stuff. You can get more cards or more boosters there. If you don't do the battle pass, then your missions, like everybody gets 6, I don't know if they're daily missions, but 6 missions that you can do, and then your seasonal ones, which as of this season, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 chapters, and those will unlock weekly. Each chapter has 7 challenges that you can do. So by doing these challenges, you can get the credits to use as a resource to upgrade those cards. For the credits, that's how you get those. And then for the boosters, each is dependent on their specific card. So if I want to upgrade my Squirrel Girl, I need specific boosters for her. And that's random. If you use the cards, it's more likely to give you the chance to get her boosters. Depending on what rarity you're trying to upgrade will determine the amount of boosters and credits that you will need. So if you're trying to upgrade just a common card to an uncommon, I think it's like 25 credits and 5 boosters. For my Squirrel Girl right now, who's at a legendary, to get her to Ultra, I need 400 credits and I need 40 of her boosters. So you may collect some over time, but may not get all of the resources you need specifically in that game to get her to the next level or next rarity, if that makes sense. Where do I want to? Okay. Stuff you can buy. If you want to, there's other resources like gold, which you can get from the battle pass. You can use the gold essentially just pretty much to buy different variants of different cards. So just essentially changing the artwork if you want to do that. Or if you want to buy more credits to upgrade your cards, you can do that as well. If you want to buy gold with real world money, you can do that, but you certainly do not have to, as you collect that from the battle pass and from your missions. So the option is there if you want to either A, support the developers, as you should, or B, just buy stuff for yourself. The option is there to do that, to get those resources with real world money if you want to upgrade. But once again, it does not change or affect the power levels of each card. It's all cosmetic, which I really appreciate because it keeps the experience fair and balanced and doesn't create this giant player gap of like, oh, well, they spent hundreds of dollars on this game. Of course, they're just going to wipe the floor with me because they have all the best cards. At least, once again, from my playing of it since, this break, this gap, whatever you want to call it, I haven't run into a point where I'm like, oh, it's just another freaking X hero or X villain. God, I hate playing against those. It really comes down to just the strategy of it. And even in a loss, I never feel frustrated. It sometimes just comes down to the simple thing of like, oh, yep, they played that card, which adds that. Didn't even think they would play that. My counter wasn't strong enough, what I played or whatever it might be. Yeah, it's just been a fun experience overall. So like I said, it is on mobile platforms, so you can play on there, or it is on Steam right now. I don't know if they plan on bringing it to other platforms, but it's been a fun experience to jump into and dive into the gameplay. I know a lot of people were talking about it over the past year that were really enjoying it and spending a lot of time into it, so it's been fun to try out and play. Does it give you a roster or list of possible cards so you know what you might want to save for? Or if you randomly got a Thor, you know I need Loki, Cap, etc. So from my understanding, I don't know if it lists them off by name, but if you go into your collection, there is a filter that you can bring up to show you what you don't have. So as I load the game up right now, so if I go into my collection, I go into filter, I can show unowned cards. So if I've seen them, it will show me their character art. So for example, there's a Wasp character here. I've seen her either played from an opponent, or I was randomly drawn that card, and it shows that. As for cards I've never seen, if I click on it, all it does is show an outline or a silhouette of those characters. So yes and no, as of like, does it give you a full roster? Right now with the filter I have up of seeing everything, at least I know all the cards available to me, yes. But they're only outlines essentially of what the cards are available. As for the variations, that, as far as I know, they do not show you. So even like a card that I bring up like Ant-Man, I can't cycle through and see how many variations that he has. So that's a little bit of a downer. Personally, like a card type that I really want to strive to and trying to collect is, I kind of alluded to the chibi art guys. So I have one for Star-Lord. That's one of the comic artists art I just really enjoy because it's goofy to see those characters kind of in this childlike aesthetic. So I don't know if there's a way where you can see what variations each card does have in terms of its art style. In going to the shop, every day they will give you 6 variations of a card that you do own, that if you want to buy with the gold, which is the real world currency, you can buy that variation. They do tend to be expensive. So for example, the cheapest ones I have in my 6 right now are 700 gold. So if I scroll down, 700 gold is $10. So yeah, it can get a little, a little egregious, I guess, if you wanted to just get the variations you want, but you don't have to, clearly. So each day they will give you 6 variants of cards that you do own, and that will refresh. I haven't reached a point where I feel like I kind of get stagnant with like getting new cards. As I mentioned with the collection level and those pips, it does get harder as you progress. So for example, I'm at a collection level of 255. I don't know if there's a max or what the max is. You can just scroll and there's a bunch. And right now, in between collection levels are 4 pips. So I need to upgrade a card 4 times. So whether it's just a common to uncommon, which is 1, or uncommon to rare, which is worth 2, every 4 I will either get 10 boosters for a random card, a mystery card, which is a new card or a variant of a card that I own, I think. Yes. Or a 50 credits. So something else I can use to upgrade my cards. I didn't reach the 4 pips in between until I reached a collection level of 214. So there's a decent chunk where it's only 2 steps in between your next reward. So you kind of, unlock things quick. So once you kind of get later in the game, it does slow down. But as long as you are playing, maybe give it a little bit of time in between and upgrading your cards, you'll be constantly getting stuff. With the season pass, obviously there's additional things you can get if you decide to do the battle pass. It's $10 to the battle pass, so you can get mystery variants from there. There's more boosters available. They usually have 3 additional cards in there, which this season's a little lacking, I'm not going to lie. But there are rewards available to you in those avenues if you want. I will say something about the credits. Every day, similar to the variants, which you can purchase, the credits, if you want to, you can also purchase credits with real world money. But every, 6 hours or so, there are free credits that you can redeem. It's only 50, but still, it's nice. It's a little bit like, oh, hey, something I can use to upgrade from there. So once you get to the higher levels of upgrading cards, it really depends too of like how you want to strategize. Of like, okay, well, I could upgrade 3 cards that go to common to uncommon, or do I want to save up and try and get an ultra to a legendary? If you want to think about it that way, really depends on what you want to do. So how did I get the Power 20 card randomly? So the last season, so when I started playing, it was the last week of the season pass, battle pass, whatever you want to call it. And I had put quite a few hours into the game. I was like, yep, I am really enjoying it. I decided to get the battle pass. So with that battle pass, the 3 cards were Silver Surfer. Ooh, what was the second one? Oh, Silver Surfer, the Collector, and then the Power 20 card, which is called the Infinaut. I don't know. So he's a 6 energy, and he's worth 20 power. However, his card gimmick is if you played a card last turn, you can't play this. So he has a positive and a negative. Obviously, it's great. 20 power. Holy shit, that's great. But you have to, make sure you essentially skip your own turn last turn and not play something, which can be detrimental in some of these things because they're very back and forth. So that one was a season pass one. I haven't seen anybody use that. So I don't feel like that's OP. From a starting standpoint, I think my highest power card was a 8 or a 9. Yeah. So you get a variety. And that's something you got to kind of strategize too with, is like, if you just load your deck with high power cards, usually the power kind of goes with their energy level. You're not going to get like a 1 energy card that's worth 10 power. No, I think as of my hand right now, or at least my collection, the highest 1 power I have is a 3. Or sorry, 1 energy. The highest power is a 3. And then, yeah, the highest power I have is 20, but it costs 6. And then there's a 12 and a 6 energy, and a 9 and a 6 energy. Like, it depends. There are certain strategies that you can use to make more cards more powerful. So, for example, I mentioned the Star-Lord card earlier, which is more of that counter card. His base power is a 2. If and only if a player plays on the same location I do that turn, his power turns from a 2 to a 5. If they don't play opposite of me, he stays at that 2. Carnage, which is a card that I play, like I said, a lot, base 2. But what he does is, if when I play him, all the other cards in that location that I own, he destroys. Every card he destroys, he gets plus 2 power. So if there's 3 other cards at that location, max I can play is 4, he'll get up to an 8. And then that frees up other spaces that I can play more cards. So you kind of have to figure out what strategy works best for you and how you can build up that power yourself. Sorry if you said but the levels, common up to infinite. Do they improve power effects, or is it just a graphic? No worries. That's a good question. So no, those will not affect any stats. So, for example, my Mr. Fantastic is at his max level. His stats have stayed the same from uncommon all the way to infinite. He's 3 energy. He's only 2 power. All that does is change the artwork of the cards. So, once again, your common just looks like a playing card, just flat artwork. Uncommon, it loses the borders so the art can escape outside of that border perimeter. 4, I believe, makes it 3D. The next one adds like some animated effects. The one after that makes it a little bit more dynamic or artsy. I don't know. And it goes from there. So no, there is no power benefit to leveling up. It's only the appearance of that collection level. So that's where it kind of maintains its balance from player to player, what doesn't feel like you're just going to come in and get stomped by somebody. So it's really, I guess, depends on the player of like, is that an experience that you want or find worthy to chase after for, of like, oh, I'm unlocking things by appearance, but not, I'm playing the game and by putting my time in, I'm getting more powerful. If that's something you want to pursue, then yeah, obviously this may not get you what you want or what you're looking for. So upgrading cards just gets you opportunities to get more cards or credits. In other words, you don't earn anything by standing on what you have. No benefits for winning matches. Yeah, so me upgrading a card changes its appearance and, yes, allows me to work towards getting more resources to either unlock new cards or upgrade the ones that I already have. Yes, it is not going to make me more powerful than person A, person B, person C. We're all on an equal playing field until it comes to strategizing, thinking out how to get more power for the locations in the game itself. I'm not at any point going to walk into a match and that person is going to stand no chance. Now, they may, obviously, with how they plan out strategically, but from a card-to-card standpoint, just by the numbers, it's anybody's game, if that makes sense. I think that makes sense. It all comes down to how the game is played, not just because I have, this gun that never misses and always gets an insta-kill. Like, those kind of pay-to-win situations where I just bought all the best gear and that makes me the best. It's literally go into it, and however you play your cards will determine how the results are. So yeah, since starting playing it, it's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, some of the stuff is a little steep for, like, if you are going to spend money for it. A little rough, so, be smart with that, obviously, But it's been a fun experience, and excited to play more. Excited to see what other variants they do have, because, like I said, it is hard, or at least I haven't found a way to look up what variants they do have. I'm sure there's maybe a website or something like that, but at least from in-game resources, there's not an easy way to see what is available there. So excited to see what we can lock down the road as we continue playing it, and it's been a fun thing. It just, even if you only have 10 to 15 minutes to kill, or just want to play something quick, easy matches in and out, and you're done. And it's just that puzzle aspect that's very interesting, of just strategizing, figuring out what's next, and where to go from there. So yeah, Marvel Snap. Glad I gave it a try, and can definitely see why everybody's been clamoring about it over this past year.